10th, 2022. We have 3 items to consider tonight. The first one is the approval of the minutes from our January 13th, 2022 meeting. Did anyone note any corrections or revisions to the minutes that are necessary? If not, I'll take a motion to approve the minutes. Motion by Neal. Is there a second? Second by Larson. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Okay. So then the minutes are approved 4-1 with 1 abstention. Let's see here. Then item number 2 is discussion and possible action on preliminary resolution to hold a public hearing to vacate excess right-of-way located on the east side of 17th Avenue, abutting the west property line of 1607 Chella Street, the south property line of 1427 Lake Street, and a portion of the south property line of 1425 Lake Street. And Eric, you have this item? Looks like on my sheet.
I do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So we had a developer approach us who is under contract for purchasing 1601 and 1607. And so they would like to consideration for putting townhomes along those 2 properties. And they would like access across the 1427 property from Lake Street heading south. And currently that 1427 is not directly connected to 1607. So the vacation of the right-of-way would give them additional width on the property for their development, as well as a connection for access.
Sure. Any questions on that plat at all?
I just have a question.
Sure.
Just in what we were discussing prior to the meeting, you want this land here that's in X's and stuff vacated, and you also suggested that your sign is going to still there. Are you going to be moving that sign so in the event that that land is vacated, you know, the people can access that property safely without damaging that sign or their vehicles?
Well, right now, we feel that there's enough space there with the sign, so we left the sign and we left it in the right-of-way. That's what that little jog in is. So we feel if we vacated what's proposed, that they would have enough to create that driveway safely and drive into those properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any additional questions? And this vote will be just to establish a
Right.
public hearing, so
Yes,
there's a number of
that's
steps
correct.
ahead of us yet. Do we have a motion to,
I'll make that motion to
okay.
hold a public hearing.
we have a motion then to move forward with the public hearing. Is there a second? Second by Ryan. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None are opposed. That motion carries. And item number 3 is discussion and possible action on the Alexander Davis preliminary plat, formerly the Wausau Center Mall site. And this is to subdivide the land previously occupied by Wausau Center. And it looks like we have the request here from REI. And we do have Tom Redens with us from REI. You have a presentation tonight, Tom, for
I do.
us? Okay.
And I can be short and sweet. And
Welcome.
Please ask any questions that you, that arise. I got the clicker, I believe. Maybe it's not idiot proof.
Oh,
I can click through it if you want, you just say next.
Yeah, next slide, please.
there we go.
So here we are, the Wausau Mall. The kind of, to build a brief history, the entire block was purchased by the city back when I was in high school, back in the 70s and 80s. And here we are today, now looking at redeveloping. Next slide, please. This is what the area looked like in 1974. The reason I threw this slide in there was to take note of 3rd Street went all the way through, 2nd Street went all the way through, Jackson went across, Washington and 4th Street went all the way through. And so what we want to do today is we want to get kind of back to some of this grid system through the development process. Next slide, please. So how the process started was with the Wausau Opportunity Zone took on the project and the property we're all aware of, and really kind of in partnership with the city, because the city still owns the parking ramps. Parking ramp number 1 is beneath this area. Parking ramp number 2 is over here. And this plan was developed by a firm called Epstein UN Architecture. And what they did is they took a look at, this is 2nd Street, 3rd Street, 4th Street, Jackson, of how we could redevelop the site moving forward. And home furniture is here, and they're going to continue to stay there. Next slide, please. So with that, the city hired Toole Design. They designed infrastructure. And so what they did is they started to put plans together of how this property could look, or how the roads could look, and how we could widen the right-of-way so we have a nice experience, rather than having a 66-foot right-of-way, which is really what's happening up here in 3rd and 2nd, and some of those are 60. These are going to be 78-foot right-of-ways. I think your committee's looked at some of those designs in the past.
Yes.
Next slide, please. So this is the current land ownership. Anything in blue is city-owned. Anything in green is owned by the Wausau Opportunity Zone. Next slide, please. These are air rights. So this parcel, Wausau Opportunity Zone owns air rights over the top of the ramp. So what that means is that, like from the Penny's slab, the former Penny's store up, Wausau Opportunity Zone has the ability to build buildings. On this piece, WAS owns the land underneath the home, but home has a 99-year ground lease. Or excuse me, I shouldn't say 99-year lease, but they have a ground lease to operate that store on that property.
Sure.
Next slide, please. Okay, this is our plat, and we colored up to help kind of identify things, so we'll walk through each lot. This is going to be everything this color is going to be lot 2, and we called it lot 2 because there's air rights that have to be purchased by WAS, or the desire to purchase that over the top of this portion, because right now WAS does not have those air rights. This is lot 1. This is land that's currently owned by the city, but you can see the air rights dip down in here, and so we're going to have to clean some of that up. So what we're doing with this plat, we're doing a couple different things. One is that we're redividing the land, and 2 is we want to take efforts to clean up. There's some old title issues that we want to clean up, and there's some dedications that need to happen to clean title up as well. So we have outlot 1. This land is currently owned by WAS. The reason we have this outlot and this outlot is when we dedicate the street. Remember, WAS owns up to the face of the old Penny's building. These 2 pieces have become remnant properties. The upside of those being remnant properties and being there is that, remember, WAS owns air rights over the top of Penny's. So when this project develops and turns into the next useful part of its life, these properties can then serve what's happening with those buildings. So maybe these become seating areas outside, or maybe they become part of the building process. So that's the reason that it makes sense for it to stay within WAS ownership. The home building will stay as it is, except we're going to add 7 feet along the north side. Reason being is that the north face of that home building was currently an inside wall. And then the view shed from coming down 3rd, this area is really important, this whole face of this building, because it's the first thing you're going to see when you're walking from downtown. And so they're working on the treatments of that building, and we wanted to give them more room for more building treatments on the face of that building. And then the children's imaginarium will be on this end of the building. Lot 3 will be a standalone building. You saw on the other plan that this southerly half will be open space, that the building will take place up on top. The goal is to get pedestrians from 3rd Street down across, down 3rd, down across this parcel, and then the pedestrian bridge will connect on this side. Mm-hmm. And right now, we're not showing any easements or any specific locations, because all this stuff is coming together as we speak. But in some place in this area is where the pedestrian bridge will cross. Lot 4, one of the reasons we're in front of you today is there's a very interested buyer for Lot 4. I think you folks are aware of that buyer.
Yep.
And in order for us to get agreements put together, for them to start design, I really need a preliminary plat. They'd like to be in the ground this fall, if at all possible. So this is kind of the driving force of why we're in front of you tonight. Lot 5, this buyer is also interested in this lot, an extension of the project. So these 2 parcels are very much in play. And then this is the parking ramp that'll stay in city ownership. We've got an outlet left over, kind of the same thing. When we swoop the street through here, this is land owned by WAS. That could turn into right-of-way. We had talked about potentially putting a right turn into the ramp if needed, if it can work, and then that could turn into right-of-way. And again, this is a preliminary plat, so anything that we happen through the course of design, we can recognize and amend on the final plat. Down here, there's a little triangle left over. That's a piece of right-of-way. It really goes into Forest Street. We're just dedicating it because the title left it. And then this piece up here, we're calling it an outlot. This is one of these pieces that got kind of left off in title world. It was originally purchased by the city when they bought the whole lot, but now it's kind of left behind. And if you look out there, this is where that ramp goes up to Penny's for life safety issues. And there's that little deck up there. Next slide, please. So we received the conditional use, or the conditional letter from the city, and we want to just address, street grades. That'll be a future engineering design effort. The purpose of the outlots is everything we just talked about. Some are remnants that kind of get caught up, but they're all serve a good purpose. The PUD will be amended when we come in with development for each block or each lot. Same thing, utility design will be designed by the city engineering staff at the appropriate time. Next slide, please. Parkland dedication, we recognize it's going to be $200 a living unit. That one's going to be tough because we don't know how many living units we're going to have until the building plans come in. So we'll have to have some conversation about how we address that. And maybe a good chunk of it gets paid up front with the recording of the plat, with an understanding that when we have the final design, more is owed or some is returned, however it works out. One of the staff asked that we square off the right-of-way at 3rd and Jackson Streets. We'd preferred not to. The reason being is that's the main entrance to the home store, and that's that sight line down 3rd, and so we want to give that entrance some nice treatments. The easements, as we go through the design effort throughout the next several months, we'll be placing easements across the property where need be, and those will appear on the final plat. Stormwater management will submit when we do our PUD amendments, because again, most of everything that we're going to have is either green space or rooftop, roof being clean water. Next slide, please. And then there was a concern with, can we get a street through next to home? And this is really, when this whole project started, this was really important to home furniture. This is our loading dock where they get semis in. This is where, like if I bought a couch, I'd come in, I'd pick it up here with my pickup truck. And so this was kind of the genesis of the whole project, because if we didn't have home comfortable with what was taking place, it was, I don't want to say the project was dead in the water, but it sure made it a lot tougher. And so we demonstrated how we could potentially get a street through here. We provided this to Toole. We all collectively have to get comfortable with that yet, and so there's some thought and process that needs to go on that design. But this is showing a street that would be 29 feet back to back for curb. And we're showing a sidewalk on this side, but at this point, knowing what we know now, we don't suggest putting a sidewalk on that side because there's really no purpose to bring people near the loading dock. So that's the end of the presentation. With me is Joe Mello from Reuter. If you have any questions about any ownership or deals, and Josh Prentice is with me, he'll pull the plat together.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the plat? This actually is similar to the plan that when we decided what width we wanted the roads when they were here last, obviously they had talked about the fact that they would deed the land over to the city that was needed for the roads. And so when we looked at kind of what we wanted for the width and the amenities that we wanted to install in that right-of-way, that's where we ended up with those wider configurations for those streets versus what we see like on the current 3rd Street. So, Deb, go ahead.
Thank you, Lisa. Maybe I'm thinking about the consultants that came up with this design from Lower Michigan a few years ago. I thought originally the Sears area was supposed to be green space. I didn't think anybody wanted to build across from the jail.
No, there was 2 buildings on that side, and then there was, where 4th Street comes into the project, there was some heightened landscaping or something, I think, on the plat, but.
Yeah, if you toggle
Right?
back several slides.
Way to the beginning?
Yeah, it's probably about the 5th, keep going back. One more, there you go. So there's the jail right there, and we had planned a building with a courtyard.
Okay.
And I believe these buildings are going to take a U shape with the courtyard in the middle. That's kind of the direction they're heading now. And then this would be a pedestrian corridor to get, well, this would drop down to the parking garage, and this would be a pedestrian corridor out to, get out to 3rd Street.
Okay, additional questions for the design group? If not, our staff recommendation is to recommend the approval of the preliminary plat so they can continue down the next steps, which of course we'll see along the way. Is there a motion to accept the preliminary plat?
I had another question.
Oh, okay, go ahead with your question.
I guess in regard to that pedestrian walkway, the S curve or whatever, are you planning to have that connect to the buses as a place to be able to drop off or pick up?
You know, I don't intimately know the bus route, but I'm assuming that the bus route will reflect picking up people up in this neck of the woods. We haven't connected with the bus, the metro at this time. And then this will terminate down on River Drive. And again, I'm sorry, but I can't answer specific questions about where the bus route is at this time.
Okay. The other thing is with the pedestrian skyway or whatever, is that going to be somehow motorized for those with disabilities so that they can use it?
It's going to be set up at a grade that be ADA acceptable.
Okay. And then if that does not get approved by the state grants, you have some alternate plan then?
Joanna, you might have to field that question as far as payment.
Well, is that bridge part of this plat though?
It's not part of the plat.
Because then if it's not on our agenda, so we have
Okay.
to visit
Okay.
that.
All right, good.
Right, so.
Thank you.
Separate from that. So this is just the street grid going in where the mall buildings were. Do we have is that a motion, Jim, to approve the preliminary? Motion by Wadinski, is there a second? Oh, second by Neal. Further discussion? Seeing none, members in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay.
Aye.
Okay, so we'll record 2 no and 3 aye.
Thank you.
And that motion then is approved. Oh, Lou, were you aye or nay?
A nay.
There's 2 noes. So, yep, so 3-2. Okay, and so then with that, that is our last item on our agenda. It was a short meeting tonight, so I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Wait,
Oh, go ahead, Lou.
are we going to have a place for future agenda items?
If you have future agenda items that you know you want, I can take them right now.
I have a question, yes. I mean, it is, maybe it should be economic development, maybe it should be CISM, I don't know, but I look around my district, and as I travel through the city, I see a little assortment of private lots, that the city owns. Has there ever been any consideration of maybe getting something put together as how many we own and how we should possibly put them up for sale so somebody can build homes on there?
You're talking
So-
about like remnant stuff, where they have little pieces all over?
Well, yes. Where there's pieces all over. There's like, I believe there's one of my streets, I want to say 12th or 10th, somewhere around there. There's a lot there. I know there was a lot down on Torney. If we can't get a list of
We
these
can-
lots.
We can. In fact, we had a list one time that we got from community development, and I think we set a minimum bid price on some of that. We offered some of them up, and I think there were takers for some and not others. But we could certainly, it's been a couple years, so
Maybe we
could.
should revisit that, because with the housing shortage and stuff, if we, I believe the lots that went up for sale in my district right by my house were like $3,500 a piece, or maybe $7,000.
Sure.
I don't know, but offer them up at a reasonable,
Yep.
at a reasonable enough price where we could get developers interested in building single-family homes
Sure.
and possibly.
So what we normally do is in this committee, we dispose of remnant property, which is just small pieces, but larger parcels that are buildable, those economic development puts a price tag on. So the economic development chair is here, for the time that he's got left with us, we could split that responsibility. And so the little stuff, like if somebody just wants a piece, like for a bigger garage or a bigger lawn or whatever, that we do here. And then the bigger pieces that are buildable, we could have ED look at.
I mean, it's a step forward to addressing the housing shortage in this community,
It
you
might
know?
absolutely be.
And,
So-
you know, not, for somebody who wants to own a home and not rent,
Sure.
you know, so, thank you.
Okay, so noted. Noted by Tom as well. So, all right, with that, we'll take motion to adjourn. The first and the second raise their hands again. We're good to go. Members in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? No one wants to stay all night? We're good. We'll stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.